Okay, so welcome along. Welcome to this press conference that's being convened here today. So we're here today from the COALESCE project, a project that's been funded by the European Commission that's looking to develop a European competence centre for science communication. And what we're going to be presenting today is one of the first outputs from the project, which is a policy brief on excellent science communication for urgent societal challenges. With us this afternoon we have Joana Magalhães. Is that how I pronounce your name?
Almost.
But how do I pronounce it?
It's good. Magalhães.
I struggle with that.
It's fine.
Magalhães.
Good.
Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah, good. Who is the co-leader of the COALESCE project and Science Communication Area Manager for Science for Change, which is based in Barcelona. And we have Kaelin DeLong, who's a researcher and lecturer in the Faculty of Science at VU in Amsterdam, VU Amsterdam, and part of the Athena Institute there. So I'm going to hand the floor to Joana and Kaelin for most of the session. Over to you, Joana.
Hi, good afternoon for everyone. The COALESCE project is an endeavor from the entire science communication community, I would say. We come from the alliance of 8 sister projects that were funded under Horizon 2020. And we came together to settle the basis and the fundamental structure for what will be the European Competence Centre for Science Communication. So the main task that we are leading to is the creation of this centre that will be a virtual platform that will be connected with what we call a national and regional structure of national and regional hubs. That we started to create recently, earlier this year. I would like to bring back a sentence that Manuel Aleixo, the head of unit for the ERA governance, just mentioned earlier today in the opening ceremony about creating freedom, democracy, the ability to pursue knowledge founded in common values. So I believe this is very much connected to what we want to create with the COALESCE project, is to support through science communication how we can reach these values and support the entire research and innovation community in the European Union to move forward, to make science accessible, to bring high quality evidence-based and interdisciplinary science communication, but also to foster a two-way science communication. We really want to bring citizens and citizen engagement into the core of what we are doing in order that we can also promote excellence in science itself by bringing it closer to people's needs. Another of the tasks that we were given within this project was to support rapid mobilization mechanisms specifically in times of crisis, and this is obviously a consequence from the pandemics. And it's one of the things that we have been working thoroughly through this first year in different tasks of the project, but specifically one that was connected to the policy recommendations that we have here today.
Terrific. Okay, so this policy brief is recommendations on how science communication can address urgent societal challenges. So those urgent societal challenges are things such as climate change and the rise of AI, so topics that are really relevant to society at the moment. Fundamentally, how does policy need to adapt to help us as society to be able to react in the appropriate ways? How can science communication be supported in the role that it will play within that? So Kaelin is now going to introduce how this policy brief was developed and I suppose the ethos behind it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I was part of the team that conducted the research behind the policy brief. Really nice group that we work with at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. And so we had this title, Urgent Societal Challenges, and one of the first things we really discussed was, well, what does it mean? What does urgent mean? What is a challenge? And so we thought, let's start kind of from the bottom up and talk about definitions and problem framings. And when we use these words, or when we discuss these themes, what are different stakeholders thinking about? So really thinking about what do people need, what are their interests, what sort of values or emotions are associated with these 4 different project themes that we're investigating. So we conducted a series of semi-structured interviews and then also workshops with different stakeholder groups in 4 different topic areas. And we're just trying to start out by mapping out a little bit how we're defining these challenges. And really 3 kind of core themes emerged from this data, which was uncertainty and responsibility and trust. So when we're talking about generative AI or climate change or climate crises, health and vaccines, that these issues, they're not actually as distinct as they may appear in the research. And that was something that almost every single person that we interviewed highlighted as well. So when we were conducting an interview about climate change, AI would come up, or when we were conducting an interview about AI, healthcare would come up. And so these issues are they're not separate, they're actually very interconnected. And this is one of the defining features in science communication. We often use the term wicked problems. So it's these problems or challenges that they're very complex, they're uncertain, it's not clear like what is the right answer, and so it's really a matter of trying to find solutions that are better or worse. But if you are going to think about solutions, it's also, well, better or worse for whom? And so one of the key recommendations that came out of this was that we need to be really considering this plurality of experiences and worldviews and understanding that there may not ever be one good solution, but ultimately someone has to make that decision. And we do, especially when it comes to crises, and this urgency element is, I think, a really important distinguishing factor here, is that when we need to make decisions quickly, who are we prioritizing? Whose experience of the world, or so from more of an equity and justice perspective as well. Yeah.
Terrific, thanks Kaelin. So over to Joana now. Joana's going to talk through some of the main recommendations from that policy brief.
So, as Kaelin was saying, these workshops were very much based in terms of participation and co-creation with different stakeholders. So we brought together policymakers, citizens, researchers and academics, and also people from the industry, all related to science communication. And together we reached these 2 main specific recommendations. One is related to nurturing resilience. So this recommendation is about supporting science communication as a field that nurtures resilience in navigating misinformation and establishing trustworthy relationships. And in this regard, there are some things that we could highlight that were even already mentioned in 2 sessions that I attended earlier today. One related to researchers' competence framework, and another one related to excellence in science. And some of the things that were pointed out were, for example, that how we can better reach the concerns from the citizens, and that science communicators can act as mediators. So this could be a new figure that, or a new type of competence that we could see from science communicators to be facilitating. Also regarding the power dynamics for communicating uncertainty that Kaelin also mentioned before, that of seeing trust as an ongoing process, and also to bring forward the interdisciplinarity needed to address this kind of problems in terms of bringing together also social scientists or anthropologists in order to integrate behavioral change. And another thing that, of course, is inherent to both the recommendations or the big recommendation groups that we will mention is the recognition of science communication as a field in itself. So the second big recommendation is to support science communication as a field in facilitating constructive exchange and strengthening public discussions about science. And in this specific case, some of the following were highlighted. One is about supporting professionals that facilitate this or could facilitate this constructive dialogue between researchers and other stakeholders looking into specifically citizens. The coordination of activities at a cross-border level. To reach out and support citizens, facilitating, for example, training or resources. And this is something, for example, it's in view with what we would like to offer in the European Competence Center for Science Communication. And obviously to have the support from funders in terms of having spaces that can facilitate co-creation and dialogue in a constant manner. In a way that also bottom-up approaches like the ones that can come from grassroots or organizations or even citizen science projects can find a way in order to have a common ground to address these kind of challenges.
Terrific. Okay, thank you. We're going to have a bit of time in a moment for any questions that you have. So I'd be happy to answer those. But just before we do that, it'd be good to know a little bit more about the project overall and how this fits within the scope of the project.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, one of the main goals that we have is to facilitate this rapid mobilization, but also that we can support science communicators in their role, in their new predicted role that we can have also in what we consider the team science, right? That we have teams that have different skills and competences that can come together and support knowledge facilitation, but also how we can integrate other people's views in terms of finding research questions or direction in terms of research. So the Competence Center, we just launched the first version of the platform that for the moment is only on static content, but that will continue to evolve into a fully operational platform in 2027. Everything that we will do will be or will have the basis in terms of co-creation and participatory methodologies at the platform itself, but also on the different tools that we will have. So, for example, one of the things that could support and facilitate this constructive dialogue and also reaching out to different communities would be a matchmaking tool that mostly wants to support also how can journalists, but especially general journalists, to get in contact with scientists, but other professionals that are important in terms of directing policies, that can also support them in their role in terms of having diversity of voices and different perspectives when writing a journalistic article. An important feature that we also want to promote is a Science Communication Academy. Obviously, we are not only focusing on science communicators themselves, but we also want to support the new research competence framework with the future skills and competences for researchers too, in order to reach different audiences and support the outreach of their research. And another thing that Kaelin's team has also been working on is a crisis navigator. This is already incorporated in this version, first version of the platform, and is very much in the line to the policy brief that we present today. This first version is mostly focused on science communicators, but the idea is that it will also evolve throughout the project in terms of supporting different professionals to navigate the crisis and how they connect with each other. And for this, we will have a session on Friday, a workshop that you're invited also to participate in order that we can think a little bit better on this first version that we have, try to validate and see what are the gaps and how we can cover it in terms of other professionals. Yes.
Terrific. Okay, thanks, Joana. That's from us. I suppose that gives you an overview of the policy brief and what we've found. But yeah, we'd welcome any questions that you have about that. Be happy to answer them. Hopefully there are some. Do you want me to kind of, maybe as a kick-off, just to sort of make this quite tangible, I suppose really just in terms of suggestions from this, in terms of policy recommendations, one of the things that comes out quite strongly is this issue around trust, and how that is shaped within the context of how science is communicated, particularly with challenges like pandemics and sort of more long-term threats like antibiotic resistance and what have you. So we said at the outset that COALESCE is informed by the research that's already taken place within science communication. So existing SWOFS 19 European funded projects that fed into this project. So to give you an example, like within the Rethink project that I was involved with, one of the insights during the pandemic was that people's decision making about how they respond to issues that are science related. So whether they respond to the lockdown, whether they respond to recommendations about mask wearing, often these came from large organisations, and it was top-down guidance that was provided by the national government or health services and what have you. And what we found across Europe was that the extent to which people responded to those recommendations was really influenced by their pre-existing trust in those organisations, and that trust was formed or disformed long before those events, so long before the pandemic. So one of the recommendations to come from this is that we need to sort of act now, and we need to start developing that trust as institutions. So it's really down to governance bodies, so that's national governments and international organisations as well, but also funding agencies to support that trust building, involving the stakeholders that need to be involved in it, such that it's building in that resilience and that connection and that trust that can then shape how people respond and hopefully do respond to future issues, whether there's a pandemic or another crisis that needs to be formed.
Can I maybe add to this?
Yeah, sure.
So from this research that we did this spring on the same theme, one thing that many people said was that when you need that trust the most, so in a crisis, that's not the time to be building it. So it really is something that needs to be continuous and ongoing. And how do you build trust with different types of people? And it's, by listening, by trying to understand rather than convince. So this was, one of the things I think it's maybe written in the recommendations is really that we need to be continuously building trust outside times of crisis so that we have it there when we need it to be there. But this requires a bit of overcoming a cognitive bias that I think a lot of, well, if not all humans have, which is it's easy to realize you need it when it's too late. So it's more of a proactive approach, I think, that we're,
recommendations around the support for science communication that Joana described before. I think it's widely known there's perhaps a lack of dialogue between science and wider society, and that relates to that issue around trust, but also understanding of how people's values pre-existing values shape the way that they respond to the crises that are at hand, whether that's a pandemic or whether that's other issues. And so again, it's important for policy and funding bodies to react now and to provide ways to support that dialogue, so science communicators and scientists can understand those values and how they shape how people respond, so that it's not just a top-down communication again, that it's very much informed by our understanding of people's different worldviews and how that shapes how they respond to different situations. So although perhaps right now that we don't have a pandemic, thankfully, one of the strong messages is building that structure and that framework and that resilience now, such that we can respond more effectively when the situation presents itself. We wrap it up there. We've already run out of time. Thank you for such terrific questions as well. I'm sure I speak on behalf of the team here. We really welcome your interest. If there are any other questions that you have that you want to ask either Joana, Kaelin or myself afterwards, we're more than happy to do that. But other than that, thanks ever so much, and see you later as ESOF progresses.
Thank you.